What's up, you guys? It's your boy, Xander here, back with another video, and today we're gonna talk about shmoney. Today, actually, we're gonna talk about the stimulus package. So for those of you who, are not living under a rock, you are aware that Rona has got the country on lockdown. A lot of people are out of work, people are doing layoffs and things like that, and so the government has decided to release a stimulus package to help with economic hardship. So in today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give some very basic information as far as the stimulus package. And then I had someone request that I do a video with some things that you could potentially do with the stimulus check if you don't need it for bills. So I do want to say that I know that a lot of people are going to need the stimulus check to pay bills, but this video will just serve as a, here's what the stimulus check is going to look like, and then here's some things that you can do with the stimulus check if you don't need it for bills. So without further ado, let's dive into what you can do with your stimulus check. All right, so to start, the base amount that you get as a single filer is $1,200. So they're gonna go by your most recent tax return. So if you filed for this year, they'll go by this year. If you filed for last year, they'll go by last year. How it works is you get $1,200 by default, and then you get $500 additional for every child dependent that you have. Now, this is the case unless you made $75,000 in your tax year. So if you made $75,000 and above, the stimulus check will start to decrease. There is a percentage that it decreases per, I think, every $1,000. I'll post the link to the information down in the description below. But basically how it's gonna work is if you make $75,000 and above, the stimulus check will start to decrease until you get to $99,000. If you made $99,000 in a year, unfortunately, you will not get a stimulus check. Now, this is the case for single filers. If you are head of household, so if you filed your taxes in 2019, if you happen to file this year, or 2018, and you filed head of household, then the check will not start to phase out until you get to $112,000. So basically what that means is, if I filed in 2019, I filed head of household, and I only made $95,000, I will get the full stimulus check. For married filers, if you filed married on your tax return, your stimulus check will be $2,400. So you get the $2,400 base and then $500 extra per child dependent that you filed on your tax return. That is up to $198,000. So if you're a married couple and you filed your tax return jointly and you made over $198,000 in the tax year, you will not receive a stimulus package. I hope that was a good low-level overview of how the stimulus check is going to work. Like I said, I will leave links for information down below so that you guys can, read up on the stimulus check and things like that. I know at the time this video is going up, a lot of you have gotten it. A lot of them are pending, but I'm going to put some information down there so that you can see, where your stimulus check is, how you go about getting paid, and whether you qualify for a stimulus check or not. Now, for those of you like me who are considered essential workers or who are not out of a job and don't necessarily need the stimulus check to pay bills, I got some tips for you on some things that you can do with that money. I will admit, I wanted to buy a PlayStation, I wanted to get a tattoo, I wanted to do a lot, but I decided to be just a little bit more responsible with the stimulus check. So let me give you some ideas as far as what you can do with your stimulus check if you don't need it for bills. Tip number 1. You can bolster or start an emergency fund. So obviously nobody counted on this pandemic, happening. And so a lot of people are without a job and have no finances. So the stimulus check is a great opportunity to bolster your emergency fund or start one if you don't have it. An emergency fund can be used in times of, tragedy. Let's say, your car breaks down. Let's say, unfortunately, a family member dies and you got to take off work and your job doesn't pay bereavement. Let's say you get laid off, things like that. So for a lot of what's going on in the country now, an emergency savings fund will help to kind of lessen the blow of that hardship. A lot of people feel like they cannot afford, to have an emergency fund. But I feel like, this stimulus check is a great example of an opportunity, to start to save, and then, drop $500 in there, drop the whole $1,200 in there or whatever you get, and then you can add $5 or $10 to it as you go. You'd be surprised how quickly that adds up, especially because typically most people don't, have these crazy economic hardships all the time. So this is a great opportunity to start or bolster an emergency fund. It just makes sense. If you have a car loan, if you have a student loan, if you have a mortgage payment and the interest is currently suspended by the provider, use the stimulus check to pay down the balance. Why would you do that? Because if interest is suspended, what that means is every amount that you put on that balance goes straight toward the principal. When you pay down the principal, it not only decreases your monthly payment, but it decreases the interest that you pay. So just make sure, that you are looking at, what kind of balances you're carrying. And if the interest is suspended, use your stimulus check that way. I mean, that'll save you money in the long run, and then it'll make even some of your monthly payments cheaper. This is one of my favorite things. I would say get a financial planner. So financial planners are great for, figuring out how to bounce back from economic hardship, figuring out how to, save in the long run, figuring out how to get debt paid, figuring out how to pay balances and things like that. A lot of people feel like they can't afford financial planners. So the stimulus check is a great opportunity to consider going to see one. Just 1 or 2 conversations with a financial planner can help really set you on the right track and help you bounce back from this, pandemic. Save it, save it, save it, save it, save it. Now I say save it. I mean, that could be something that you want to do if you have the means and you're not worried about bills at the moment because you're still working. Save the money. It can't hurt. I know I talked about an emergency fund earlier in the video, but just save it just for the sake of saving it. Put it in your long-term savings. If you're like me, I have an emergency fund, and then I have a long-term savings, and then I have a 401k. So I have several avenues where I'm saving just so that I always am financially secure. So if you are like me, or if you're not like me, that's fine, but just save the money if you don't need it. If you have to think on something to spend it on and it's not something that's really important, save the money just because you never know. And right now, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to go on. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know if we're going to get another support payment. So if you're not sure what to do with it and you don't like any of the other options that I presented in this video, just save your check. All right, guys, I tried to make this video quick and to the point. For those of you out there who are without a job and things like that, I'm really sorry. I just want you guys to know that I am praying for you, praying for the country. But let me know down below what you're gonna do with your stimulus check when you get it. Like I said, don't forget to check the description because I'm gonna have a bunch of links to a bunch of information down there for you guys. And then always, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you click that notification bell so that you guys know when I post new content. And before you leave, you might as well just click on another video. You know why? Because we're all in quarantine and there's not really anything better to do. So you might as well. All right, guys, this is Xander. Bye.